The copper-colored sun of Zeta 4 cast long shadows across the debris field, illuminating countless fragments of what had once been magnificent vessels. Mara Tang adjusted her viewfinder and focused on a particular section of the asteroid belt, where sensor readings had indicated unusual energy signatures. From the bridge of Salvager's Pride, the vastness of space felt both liberating and oppressive. "Captain, our proximity alerts are active. We're now entering the outer perimeter of the crater zone," reported Jun Park, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. The young AI engineer's expertise had proven invaluable over the years, especially when dealing with ancient systems. Mara nodded without looking away from her viewfinder. "Maintain current trajectory. Those readings are strongest near the impact crater on asteroid Delta 7. She couldn't afford distractions, not when they were this close. After 3 years of chasing fragmentary records and paying exorbitant prices for unreliable information, the Lost Expansion, humanity's greatest technological achievement before its forced retreat, might finally yield some of its secrets. In the year 2700, humanity's position in the galaxy was a far cry from what their ancestors had envisioned. The Wandering Galaxy, as it was called by the various species that inhabited it, had relegated humans to the category of technological has-beens. The Lost Expansion of the 23rd century, once humanity's golden age of innovation and exploration, was now little more than a footnote in galactic history, deliberately obscured by those who benefited from humanity's diminished status. Particularly galling were the gel species gelatinous beings, whose adaptability had allowed them to capitalize on technological advancements across the galaxy. Through their corporate monolith, Geltech, they had systematically ridiculed human technological capabilities, while quietly exploiting and claiming as their own the very innovations they had discovered in abandoned human outposts. "Captain, detecting gel communication protocols in the vicinity." Ngo Vuong announced from the security station, his voice tight with controlled anger. The former Earth military veteran maintained a special hatred for the gel, who had been instrumental in the economic isolation of humanity's colonies. "Appears to be a standard patrol sweep. They haven't detected us yet. Lee, make sure our signal dampeners are at maximum," Mara ordered, addressing the linguistics specialist who doubled as their communications officer. Li Wei nodded her hands, making quick adjustments. "Dampeners operating at peak efficiency, Captain. We're virtually invisible to their optical sweeps, though I advise against active scanning from our end." Mara allowed herself a small smile. The gel, for all their technological posturing, still relied heavily on optical scanning technology, an ironic adoption of a human invention they claim to have created. Salvager's Pride, though appearing outdated and cobbled together to most observers, incorporated modifications that played to the blind spots in such systems. The ship glided silently through the debris field, occasionally making minor course corrections to avoid larger asteroids. Most salvage operations focused on recovering metals and rare materials, but Mara's objective was far more valuable information. Historical evidence that could restore humanity's rightful place in galactic memory. "We're approaching the crater," Jun announced as the ship slowed. "Energy signatures are intensifying. Whatever is down there, it's still active after all these centuries." Mara checked her environmental suit one final time. "Prepare the landing shuttle. Jun, you're with me. Lee, continue monitoring communications. Vuong, keep us ready for rapid departure if needed." The landing shuttle detached from Salvager's Pride, with barely a whisper, its thrusters optimized for stealth. As they descended toward the massive impact crater that scarred Delta 7, Mara felt her heart rate accelerate. This wasn't just another salvage operation. This could be the evidence she had dedicated her life to finding. The crater floor was littered with twisted metal, some bearing the faded insignia of early human expansion vessels. Jun's instruments guided them toward a particularly large fragment, half buried in regolith. As they approached, Mara could make out what appeared to be an airlock miraculously intact, despite the violent impact that had created the crater. Energy signature is emanating from approximately 20 meters behind that access point. Jun reported excitement creeping into his normally measured tone. Whatever it is, it's maintaining power after 7 centuries. Mara and Jun worked in practiced coordination to clear debris from the airlock. Their suits' enhanced servos made the work faster, though still tedious. After nearly an hour, they had cleared enough to attempt access. The locking mechanism appears to be a Type 7 radial seal. Jun observed, examining the ancient technology. Standard on colonial transport vessels during the early expansion era. Can you bypass it? Jun smiled behind his helmet visor. Already have the sequence mapped. These were designed to be accessible during emergencies. His gloved hands worked delicately over the manual override, and with a groaning protest of metal that had remained stationary for centuries, the airlock began to cycle. The interior of the vessel was remarkably preserved, protected from cosmic radiation and micrometeorite damage by the asteroid itself. Emergency lighting dim, but functional activated as they entered, responding to motion after 700 years of darkness. Incredible, Mara whispered, running her scanner over inscriptions on the wall. This appears to be the UES Harbinger, a colonist transport. Records indicated it was lost with all hands during the Centauri conflict. They made their way deeper into the wreckage following the strengthening energy signature. The ship had been violently bisected during impact, but the central areas remained intact enough to navigate. They passed crew quarters, communal areas, and storage compartments, all preserved like a museum to humanity's past ambitions. The energy signature led them to what had once been the ship's research laboratory. Unlike the rest of the vessel, this area showed signs of deliberate preservation, reinforced walls, independent power systems, and additional radiation shielding. This wasn't standard for transport vessels. Jun noted, examining the laboratory's layout. The Harbinger must have been carrying something special. Mara approached a cylindrical module in the center of the lab, its surface covered in warning symbols and security notations. The module, approximately 1 meter in height and half that in diameter, glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed in slow, regular intervals. "This is it," she breathed, barely able to contain her excitement. "A preservation module. These were used to transport critical technology and information during the expansion." Jun ran his scanner over the device. "It's incredible. The power core is still functioning at 60% capacity. These were designed to last centuries, but this exceeds all specifications." Mara carefully examined the interface panel on the module's side. "Standard authentication protocols. Let me see if I can..." As her gloved fingers traced the ancient symbols, the module's light suddenly intensified. Before either of them could react, a holographic projection erupted from the top of the cylinder, filling the room with light. Star charts, navigation coordinates, and technical schematics flowed through the air in a cascading display of information. "It's a star map," Jun gasped, "but like nothing in our current navigational database." Mara's eyes widened as she recognized what they were seeing. Not just any star map. This shows the complete network of forward echo stations, the backbone of humanity's early warning and rapid response system during the expansion. The hologram shifted, focusing on a particular set of coordinates at the edge of the Zeta system, far from established trade routes or inhabited worlds. A blinking indicator marked something labeled simply as Forward Echo Prime. Most of these stations were thought to be destroyed or abandoned during the retreat. Mara said, her voice hushed with reverence. "But, if this is accurate, Forward Echo Prime might still exist. It would have been the central hub containing complete records of human technological development before the gel and other species pushed us back." A sudden alarm from their communication system interrupted their discovery. "Captain," Lee's voice came through with urgency. "The gel patrol has altered course. They're heading directly for the crater. I believe they detected the energy surge when the module activated." Jun looked at Mara with alarm. "If they find this..." "They won't," Mara said firmly. She quickly accessed the module's interface and initiated a download sequence to her secured data terminal. We take what we can and ensure they don't get the rest. As June helped her secure the vital data, a more urgent communication came through. Multiple vessels approaching Vuong reported tension evident in his voice. Configurations match Geltec enforcement cruisers. This isn't a patrol, it's a raid force. Mara made a split-second decision. Jun, help me disconnect the module. We're taking it with us. Working rapidly, they detached the cylindrical device from its housing, careful not to damage its ancient components. As the last connection was severed, the hologram flickered and stabilized, now projecting from the module itself, rather than the laboratory systems. We need to move. Now, Mara ordered, securing the module to her suit's cargo harness. They made their way back through the wreckage, moving as quickly as caution allowed. As they approached the airlock, Vuong's voice came through again. Captain, they've deployed atmospheric entry vehicles. Estimate 4 minutes until they reach the surface. Understood. We're nearly at the shuttle, Mara replied, gesturing for Jun to move faster. They reached the landing shuttle and quickly secured themselves and their precious cargo. As Jun initiated the launch sequence, the first Geltec vessels became visible, descending toward the crater, in a formation that suggested they knew exactly what they were looking for. They're scanning the wreckage. Jun reported, his eyes on the sensor display. Targeting systems active. Mara took manual control of the shuttle. Hold on! She guided the small craft not up toward Salvager's Pride, but laterally skimming the crater floor and using the larger debris fragments as cover. The Geltec vessels, expecting a direct ascent, momentarily lost track of them among the wreckage. Vuong, we need extraction at coordinates Delta 7254, Mara transmitted. We'll be coming in hot with pursuers. Acknowledged, Captain. Pride is descending to minimum safe altitude. Weapon systems online. Mara pushed the shuttle to its limits, weaving through the debris field while staying low enough that the crater walls helped mask their signature. Behind them, the Geltec vessels realized their mistake and adjusted coarse energy weapons, beginning to fire into the debris field in hopes of scoring a lucky hit. As they cleared the crater rim, Salvager's Pride came into view, hovering just above the asteroid's surface. Its loading bay doors were open, ready to receive them. They've spotted us, Jun warned, as proximity alarms blared. A Geltec interceptor had broken from the main group and was closing rapidly, its targeting systems locked on their shuttle. Mara executed a series of evasive maneuvers, but in the confined space near the asteroid's surface, their options were limited. A glancing hit from the interceptor's energy weapon sent their shuttle spinning, alarms screaming as systems failed. Hold on! Mara shouted, fighting the controls. With a desperate maneuver, she managed to stabilize just enough to direct their crippled craft toward Salvager's Pride's open bay. They hit the deck hard, skidding across the bay floor, before emergency arrest systems finally brought them to a halt. We're aboard! Mara called into her communicator as she and Jun extracted themselves from the damaged shuttle. Go, go, go! Salvager's Pride's engines roared to life, the ship rapidly ascending from the asteroid's surface. Through the still open bay doors, Mara could see the Geltec vessels, in pursuit, their sleek forms reflecting the copper light of Zeta 4. Bay doors secured, Vuong reported as the massive doors finally closed. Engaging main drives in 3, 2, 1. The ship lurched as its main propulsion system engaged, pushing them away from Delta 7 at maximum acceleration. The inertial compensators struggled to keep up, causing everyone to grip nearby handholds tightly. Jun, get that module secured in the research lab, Mara ordered, as they made their way to the bridge. Lee, I need maximum range on our communications dampening field. Already done, Captain, Lee replied, as Mara entered the bridge. But there's a problem. The Gel are broadcasting our signature to all nearby vessels. They've identified us specifically. Mara's expression darkened. This was no longer about preventing discovery. They had been identified, which meant Geltec would now dedicate significant resources to hunting them down. Plot a course through the dense section of the asteroid belt, she commanded. We'll use the debris for cover while we figure out our next move. As Salvager's Pride dove into the chaotic maze of tumbling rocks that made up the heart of the Zeta 4 asteroid belt, Mara joined Jun in the research lab, where he had secured the ancient module. "How bad is it?" she asked, referring to their situation. Jun looked up from his examination of the device. Geltech has deployed a bounty notification across their network. They're claiming we've stolen proprietary technology from a protected archaeological site. Mara snorted in derision. Protected? They didn't even know it existed until we found it. That won't matter in their corporate tribunals, Jun replied. But that might be the least of our concerns. He gestured to the module. This device is beginning to destabilize. The power fluctuations during our escape damaged some of the containment systems. I estimate we have maybe 72 hours before critical failure. Mara studied the holographic star chart, still projecting from the module. Then, we have 72 hours to reach Forward Echo Prime. The coordinates indicate it's located at the edge of the system, hidden in the cometary halo. Captain Lee's voice interrupted, via the ship's internal communication system. You need to see this. When Mara returned to the bridge, Lee pointed to the communication array. We're picking up a system-wide broadcast from Geltech headquarters on Chrono Station. They're specifically mentioning us by name. On the main display, the gelatinous form of Salon Moore, executive director of Geltech's Archaeological Preservation Division, was addressing an audience. The gel's translucent body pulsed with the bioluminescent patterns that served as both emotional indicators and status symbols among their kind. Into the reckless actions of human salvager Mara Tang and her crew. Salon was saying, multicolored ripples of indignation moving through his form. These criminals have removed a dangerous and unstable power source from our secure research site, potentially endangering countless lives across the system. Their secure research site, Vuong Spot. They arrived after we did. Salon continued. Geltech is offering a substantial reward for information leading to their apprehension and the safe return of our property. We remind all citizens that human technology from this era is notoriously unstable and was responsible for numerous catastrophic events during their failed expansion period. The broadcast switched to an image of Mara, clearly taken from some previous port identification scan, along with images of her primary crew members. Well, Mara said dryly, at least we're famous now. This complicates things, Lee observed. Every bounty hunter and opportunist in the system will be looking for us. Mara's expression remained determined. It also confirms we've found something valuable. They wouldn't go to these lengths for a simple power module. She turned to Jun. How's the data analysis coming? I've managed to stabilize the holographic projection and download approximately 40% of the data, he replied. The coordinates for Forward Echo Prime appear accurate, but there's something strange about them. Strange how? Jun brought up a detailed view of the target area. According to all current star charts, there's nothing at this location, not even a suitable planetoid or asteroid for a station. It's just empty space in the outer cometary region. Mara studied the coordinates thoughtfully. Unless the station was designed to be invisible to standard detection methods. Cloaking technology, Vuong asked skeptically. That's theoretical at best. No species has developed functional cloaking beyond short-duration tactical systems. No species that we know of, Mara countered. Remember, the historical records of the expansion era were heavily censored after the retreat. What if humanity had developed technologies that were subsequently erased from galactic knowledge? Lee, who had been quietly analyzing the partial data they'd recovered, suddenly looked up. I think Mara might be right. I've been translating some of the technical annotations in the module's data. There are repeated references to something called persistent phase variance technology in relation to forward echo stations. Phase variance. Jun repeated, his eyes widening. That could theoretically render an object invisible by shifting it partially out of conventional space-time. If such technology existed, the gel would certainly have an interest in claiming it as their own, Mara noted grimly. We need to reach Forward Echo Prime before they decipher the coordinates themselves. Vuong gestured to the sensor displays, showing multiple pursuit vessels. That might be easier said than done, Captain. We've got at least 3 Geltech enforcement vessels converging on this sector. Even with the asteroid belt for cover, we can't outrun them forever. Mara considered their options. We need to reach the edge of the system without being detected. Her eyes narrowed as an idea formed. Vuong, what's the status of our core temperature masking system? The security officer checked his console. Functional, but it's only designed for short-duration use. Extended operation would risk engine burnout. And our reserve fuel cells. We have 3 complete cells, enough for approximately 120 hours of emergency operation. Mara nodded. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. We'll head for Mining Outpost Theta on the outer edge of the belt. It's largely automated, minimal crew, and officially registered to the Pan-Asian Consortium, technically neutral in this conflict. Geltech will have it under surveillance, Lee pointed out. Exactly, Mara agreed. Which is why we're not going to dock there. We're going to create a distraction. She quickly outlined her plan, watching, as understanding dawned on her crew's faces. That's extremely risky, Jun said finally. Do you have a better idea? Mara challenged. Jun shook his head reluctantly. No, Captain. Then let's get to work. The next 12 hours were a careful dance through the asteroid belt, using the larger rocks as cover, while maintaining enough distance from the pursuing vessels to avoid direct confrontation. As they approached Mining Outpost Theta, a ramshackle collection of processing facilities and habitation modules attached to a mineral-rich asteroid, Mara's plan moved into its next phase. Transmitting now, Lee announced, sending a tightly focused communication beam to the outpost. The message was brief and deliberately cryptic, designed to be intercepted by Geltech surveillance. Almost immediately, the outpost's automated defenses activated scanning protocols, initiating across its perimeter. As expected, this activity drew the attention of the nearest Geltech vessel, which altered course to investigate. Preparation complete, Jun reported from the engineering section. The drone is programmed and ready for deployment. Mara gave the command, and a small, unremarkable maintenance drone was launched from Salvager's Pride, carrying a duplicate of their ship's identification transponder. The drone headed directly for the mining outpost, its trajectory suggesting a desperate attempt at reaching Sanctuary. As predicted, the Geltech vessel immediately changed course to intercept the drone, broadcasting warnings and threats. Meanwhile, Salvager's Pride, with its primary transponder deactivated and running on minimal power, slipped away in the opposite direction. Core temperature masking system engaged, Vuong confirmed. We're running dark now. All non-essential systems powered down. The ship drifted away from the asteroid belt, using only occasional bursts from maneuvering thrusters to maintain course toward the outer system. Inside, emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow as life support systems operated on minimal power. How long can we maintain this profile? Mara asked. Approximately 60 hours before we need to restart main systems for heat dispersal, Jun replied. After that, we'd become detectable to any focused scan. Mara calculated mentally. That should get us close enough to the coordinates. Once we're in the outer cometary halo, the background radiation and ice particles will provide additional cover. For the next 2 days, Salvager's Pride continued its silent journey outward, the crew taking turns monitoring the failing preservation module and analyzing the data it contained. The holographic projection had stabilized, showing increasingly detailed schematics of Forward Echo Prime, though many sections remained corrupted or incomplete. Lee's linguistic analysis had made significant progress. I've translated most of the operational parameters, she reported, during one of their regular briefings. Forward Echo Prime wasn't just a warning station, it was a technological repository. According to these records, when the political situation began deteriorating for human colonies, a decision was made to preserve key technological advancements in hidden locations. A time capsule, Jun said thoughtfully. preserved for future generations to rediscover. More than that, Lee continued. The stations were designed to be completely self-sufficient with automated maintenance systems and redundant power generation. They were meant to survive indefinitely hidden from those who forced humanity's retreat. Mara studied the holographic representation of the station. If even half of these specifications are accurate, Forward Echo Prime contains definitive proof that many technologies currently attributed to other species, particularly the gel, were actually human innovations. Which explains why Geltech is so desperate to find us, Vuong added grimly. If this information became widely known, their entire technological empire would be exposed as built on theft and deception. As they approached the 50-hour mark of their silent running, Jun reported a concerning development. The preservation module is deteriorating faster than anticipated. Power fluctuations are increasing in frequency and magnitude. Mara examined the failing device. Can you stabilize it? Jun shook his head. Not with our current resources. The technology is simply too old and damaged. I estimate complete failure within 12 hours, well before we reach the coordinates. Then, we need to extract whatever data remains as quickly as possible, Mara decided. Focus on the access protocols for Forward Echo Prime. Without those, finding the station won't help us if we can't get inside. As Jun and Lee worked frantically to save what data they could from the failing module, Vuong monitored their progress through the outer system. We're approaching the cometary halo, he reported. Sensor readings are becoming unreliable due to ice particles and radiation. Mara nodded. Perfect. That works in our favor. Any sign of pursuit? Nothing definitive, but I'm detecting intermittent scanning patterns consistent with Geltech's search protocols. They haven't given up. They're methodically searching the entire system. How long until we reach the coordinates? At current speed, approximately 14 hours. Mara frowned. The module won't last that long. We need to increase speed. She made a difficult decision. Disengage the core temperature masking system and restore power to main engines. We'll make a run for it. Captain Vuong warned that will make us detectable. I know, Mara acknowledged. But it's a race now. Either we reach Forward Echo Prime before the module fails completely, or this all becomes academic when we lose the access protocols. As main power was restored, Salvager's pride surged forward, its engines pushing to maximum sustainable output. The sudden energy signature was like a beacon in the relative emptiness of the outer system, and it didn't take long for the consequences to manifest. Captain, Lee called urgently. We're detecting multiple vessels altering course to intercept. 2 Geltech enforcers and something larger. A destroyer-class vessel. Mara's expression remained determined. Estimated time to intercept? Vuong checked the calculations. The enforcers will reach us approximately 30 minutes after we arrive at the coordinates. The destroyer, maybe 20 minutes after that. Then we have a narrow window, Mara concluded. We find Forward Echo Prime, get inside, and secure whatever evidence we can before they arrive. The preservation module's condition continued to deteriorate as they approached the coordinates. Intermittent power surges caused the holographic projection to flicker and distort, while warning indicators showed imminent structural failure of the ancient device. I've extracted what I believe are the primary access protocols. Jun reported working feverishly to transfer data before it was lost. But much of the station's internal schematic data is corrupted beyond recovery. We'll have to improvise once we're inside, Mara replied. Lee, any progress on the transmission formats? If the station exists, we'll need to communicate with its systems. Lee nodded. I've reconstructed the basic command syntax. It's an early form of the universal protocol that eventually became standard, but with several unique elements specific to human military systems of that era. As they closed in on the precise coordinates indicated by the module, tension on the bridge increased. Sensor sweeps revealed nothing unusual about the region, just the expected dispersion of cometary material and radiation, typical of a star system's outer boundaries. We're here, Vuong announced, a note of disappointment evident in his voice. Coordinates match exactly, but there's nothing here, Captain. Mara refused to accept defeat. The station was designed to be hidden. Jun, what about unusual energy signatures, radiation patterns, gravitational anomalies? Jun ran a series of specialized scans, his expression growing increasingly puzzled. There's something odd about the background radiation in this sector. It's as if there's a shadow where there shouldn't be. A shadow. Mara moved to his station. Yes. The normal cometary radiation is being absorbed or deflected in a spherical pattern, approximately 2 kilometers in diameter, centered exactly on our coordinates. Mara's eyes lit with excitement. That's it, Lee. Prepare to transmit the access protocols on all frequencies identified in the module data. As Lee readied the transmission, the preservation module suddenly emitted a high-pitched whine, its casing beginning to crack as power surges overwhelmed its ancient containment systems. It's going critical, Jun warned quickly, initiating emergency containment procedures. We need to eject it. Not yet, Mara countered. We need it for one last transmission. Lee activated the communication array, broadcasting the complex sequence of codes and identifiers extracted from the module. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then, just as Jun was preparing to forcibly eject the failing device, a response came through, a simple acknowledgement signal that hadn't been used by any known civilization for centuries. We've got something, Lee reported excitedly. A recognition handshake from something out there. Before their eyes, the apparent emptiness before them began to change. It wasn't a dramatic materialization, rather a subtle shift, as if reality itself were reluctantly revealing a secret it had kept for 700 years. Slowly, the outline of a massive structure became visible against the backdrop of distant stars. Forward Echo. Prime had remained hidden in plain sight for centuries, its phase variance technology, bending light, and other forms of detection around it to create perfect invisibility. As the station's systems recognized the approach of authorized human visitors for the first time in generations, it gradually shifted back into phase with normal space-time. It's beautiful, Mara whispered, gazing at the structure that was now fully visible before them. Forward Echo Prime resembled a vast geometric snowflake, with 6 main extensions radiating from a central hub. Unlike modern space stations with their utilitarian designs, this relic of humanity's golden age incorporated both function and aesthetic beauty, a statement of technological prowess and cultural confidence. The station is initiating further communication, Lee reported. It's welcoming us home. The preservation module gave a final alarming crack, the holographic projection stuttering and failing as its power core began an irreversible cascade failure. We need to eject it now, Jun insisted. The containment is completely failing. Mara nodded reluctantly. Do it. The failing module was quickly secured in an ejection pod and launched away from the ship, detonating in a brilliant flash of energy moments later. Despite the loss, Mara's focus remained on the marvel before them. Docking protocols are being transmitted by the station, Lee announced. It's guiding us to the primary access point. Take us in, Mara ordered. And hurry. Our visitors will be arriving soon. Salvager's Pride approached one of the Snowflake's extensions, where an enormous docking bay was opening for the first time in centuries. The station's automated systems guided them inside, with precision, massive doors closing behind them as atmosphere was introduced to the bay. Life support parameters are optimal, Jun reported with surprise. The station's been maintaining Earth-standard conditions all this time. As soon as the docking sequence completed, Mara led her crew toward the airlock. Vuong, stay aboard and monitor our pursuer's approach. We need as much warning as possible. Understood, Captain. Mara, Jun, and Lee crossed through the airlock into Forward Echo Prime, stepping into a piece of living history. Unlike the cramped utilitarian designs of modern vessels, the station's interior featured high ceilings, elegant architectural elements, and surprisingly warm lighting. This doesn't look like a military installation, Lee observed, running her hand along a wall inscribed with flowing designs. Because it wasn't just military, Mara replied, recognizing elements from her archaeological studies. Forward echo stations were designed to preserve humanity's achievements, not just our technology, but our culture as well. They were built to inspire as well as function. Jun consulted his portable scanner. The central data repository should be in the hub. That's where we'll find the historical records we need. They moved swiftly through the station's main corridors, marveling at the state of preservation. Occasionally, maintenance drones, elegant machines with smooth, contoured bodies, unlike the angular designs favored by modern technology, passed them, acknowledging their presence with soft chimes before continuing their eternal duties. The station recognizes us as human, Jun noted, as another drone greeted them. The biometric scanning is still active after all this time. They reach the central hub, a vast circular chamber dominated by a holographic projection of the galaxy at its center. Around the perimeter, dozens of access terminals waited, their screens illuminating as the human visitors approached. "This is incredible," Lee breathed, approaching one of the terminals. The entire technological history of the expansion era preserved intact. Mara moved to what appeared to be the main control interface. "Let's focus on what we came for. We need definitive evidence of humanity's technological achievements, particularly those that have been appropriated by Geltech." As they worked to access the station's vast database, Vuong's voice came through their communicators. "Captain, the Geltech enforcers have changed course. They're moving faster than anticipated, ETA now 15 minutes. And the destroyer is accelerating as well." "They must have detected the station when it came out of phase," Jun suggested. "Then we need to work quickly," Mara replied. "Jun, see if you can access the station's defense systems. Lee, help me locate the primary historical database." The interfaces responded readily to their commands, centuries-old systems recognizing human users and adapting to contemporary input methods. Lee was quickly able to navigate the linguistic shifts between ancient and modern terminology, unlocking access to increasingly comprehensive data stores. "I've found it," she announced, after several minutes of intensive work. The complete technological chronicle of human innovation, indexed by field date and inventor. Mara joined, her eyes widening as she saw the extent of the records. "This is it, everything we need. Propulsion systems, energy generation materials, science communication protocols, all with complete documentation of human origin." Jun, meanwhile, had made his own discovery. "Captain, I've accessed the defensive systems. They're extensive, far beyond what historical records suggested was available during this era. Can you activate them?" Jun nodded, a hint of surprise in his expression. "Already done. The station recognized my authorization almost immediately. Defense drones are powering up in storage bays throughout the structure." Mara quickly made a decision. "We need to broadcast this information immediately before Geltech can stop us. If enough independent vessels receive these records, the truth will spread too widely to suppress." "The station has a powerful transmission array," Jun noted, reviewing the systems available. "It was designed to communicate across the entire expansion territory. We could potentially reach every inhabited system in this sector." "Do it," Mara ordered. "Prepare a data package with the most conclusive evidence of human innovation, particularly technologies currently claimed by Geltech." As they worked to compile and prepare the transmission, Vuong's voice came through again, urgency evident. "Captain, first Geltech enforcer has arrived. They're holding position approximately 5 kilometers from the station. The second will arrive in minutes, and the destroyer shortly after." "Are they transmitting?" "Yes, demanding immediate surrender of the station and all personnel. They're claiming the structure is a dangerous human weapons platform that poses a threat to galactic security." Mara smiled grimly. "Of course they are. Inform them that we are broadcasting historical records of significant galactic interest and invite them to receive the transmission." "Captain," Jun called from the defense control interface. "The station is detecting targeting locks from the Geltech vessel. They're preparing to fire." Activate countermeasures, Mara ordered. Defensive only. I don't want to give them actual justification for their claims. Jun's fingers flew across the interface, and throughout forward Echo Prime systems that had lain dormant for centuries hummed to life. From concealed bays across the station's exterior, swarms of defense drones emerged, sleek, maneuverable craft designed to intercept incoming fire and protect the station without directly engaging attackers. Transmission package ready, Lee announced. I've included authentication protocols that will verify the data's age and origin. Send it, Mara commanded. Maximum dispersal pattern. Lee activated the transmission, and Forward Echo Prime's communication array powered up to full capacity for the first time in 700 years. The data, thousands of detailed records of human technological innovations, complete with timestamps, development histories, and original specifications, began broadcasting across the sector. The Geltec enforcers are firing, Vuong reported. Energy weapons targeting the communication array. The station shuddered slightly as the first volley of attacks was intercepted by the defense drones, which sacrificed themselves to absorb the energy blasts before they could reach the station's vital systems. Second enforcer has arrived, Vuong continued. They're launching boarding craft. Destroyer ETA 4 minutes. Mara turned to Jun. How much longer will the defense drones hold? Jun checked the rapidly updating tactical display. Against 2 enforcers, perhaps 15 minutes. Against a destroyer as well, significantly less. And the transmission? Lee monitored the communication status. 37% complete. We need at least 10 more minutes for the most crucial data to be transmitted. Mara made another quick decision. Jun, initiate the station's self-preservation protocol. Jun looked at her in surprise. Captain, this station has remained hidden for 7 centuries. It has fulfilled its purpose by allowing us to broadcast the truth. Now, we need to ensure Geltec doesn't gain control of it. Understanding dawned in Jun's eyes. He accessed the appropriate systems, requiring multiple confirmations before the rarely used protocol was activated. Self-preservation sequence initiated, he reported. The station will begin phasing out of normal space-time in 8 minutes. Once fully out of phase, nothing in this reality will be able to affect it. The station is designed to protect itself, Mara explained to Lee. It won't be destroyed. It will simply remove itself from our reach, continuing its silent vigil until some future generation of humans proves worthy of rediscovering it. But what about us? Lee asked. If we're still aboard when it phases? We won't be, Mara assured her. We'll return to Salvager's Pride and depart before the sequence completes. A massive impact rocked the station, strong enough to momentarily stagger them, despite the defense drone's efforts. That was the destroyer, Vuong reported. It's arrived ahead of schedule and deploying heavy weapons. The defense drones are being overwhelmed. Transmission status, Mara demanded. 64% complete, Lee replied, steadying herself against a console. The most crucial historical data has been sent, but we're still transmitting the technical specifications for many key technologies. Another, more powerful impact shook the station, causing alarms to sound throughout the structure. Hull breach in Section 4, Jun reported. Automated systems are sealing it, but the destroyer is preparing another volley, and the boarding craft are nearly at access point 7. Mara checked the countdown to the phase shift. Just under 6 minutes remained. We need to buy more time. Jun, can you redirect power from non-essential systems to reinforce the defenses? Already doing so, he confirmed. But it won't be enough against that destroyer. Through the massive viewing ports of the central hub, they could see the Geltec vessels arranged in an attack formation around Forward Echo Prime. The destroyer, a massive angular vessel with pulsing bioluminescent patterns along its hull, was positioning for another attack run. Wait, Lee said, suddenly studying the communication logs. We're receiving responses to our transmission. Independent vessels throughout the sector are acknowledging receipt and requesting authentication protocols for retransmission. Mara's expression brightened. They're spreading the data themselves. Send them everything we have. As Lee worked to support the growing network of retransmissions, a new alert sounded. Boarding craft have breached access point 7, Jun warned. Geltec forces are entering the station. Vuong, Mara, called through the communicator. Prepare Salvager's Pride for immediate departure. We're returning now. Understood, Captain. Standing by. Mara turned to her companions. We've done what we came to do. The truth is out there now, being spread ship to ship across the sector. We need to leave while we still can. They quickly gathered their personal data devices, ensuring they had copies of the most significant historical records, and prepared to depart. As they left the central hub, Jun accessed the internal defense systems. I've activated the internal security drones, he reported. They'll delay the boarding parties, but they're designed for containment, not elimination. They won't harm the intruders. They moved swiftly through the corridors toward their docking point, occasionally hearing distant sounds of conflict as Geltec forces encountered the station's internal defenses. The countdown to phase shift showed just over 3 minutes remaining. As they rounded the final corner to the docking bay, they found their path blocked by a squad of Geltec security personnel. The gel soldiers, encased in mechanized exoskeletons that enhanced their naturally amorphous bodies, raised their weapons. Halt, commanded the lead soldier, the gelatinous form within the exoskeleton, pulsing with aggressive patterns. By authority of Geltec Reclamation Division, you are ordered to surrender this facility and all data in your possession. Mara stepped forward, positioning herself in front of Jun and Lee. This facility belongs to humanity. It has completed its mission. The truth about your technological theft has already been transmitted across the sector. Before the soldier could respond, the corridor behind them filled with a soft humming sound. A dozen maintenance drones had gathered their normally benign forms, reconfiguring to reveal defensive capabilities. What? The Geltec soldier began, but was interrupted as the drones deployed containment fields, non-lethal energy barriers, that enveloped each of the intruders, temporarily immobilizing them. The station protects its own, Mara observed with satisfaction as they moved past the immobilized soldiers. Let's go. They reached the docking bay with less than 2 minutes remaining before phase shift. As they hurried across the vast chamber toward Salvager's Pride, the main doors began to cycle open, another boarding craft attempting to gain entry. Run, Mara urged, as they sprinted the final distance to their ship. They reached the airlock just as the bay doors completed their cycle, admitting a large Geltec assault craft. Vuong had the engines primed and ready. The moment they were aboard, Salvager's Pride disengaged from the docking clamps and accelerated toward the still open bay doors. The Geltec assault craft attempted to block their path, but Vuong's piloting skills allowed them to slip past, with only minor scraping along their hull. We're clear, he reported, as they emerged from Forward Echo Prime into open space. Around them, the battle continued with the remaining defense drones, fighting a losing battle against the overwhelming firepower of the Geltec destroyer. 1 minute to phase shift, Jun announced, monitoring the station's status from their ship. On the main viewer, they watched as Forward Echo Prime began to shimmer slightly, the first signs of its imminent departure from normal spacetime. The Geltec vessels seemed to realize what was happening as they suddenly broke off their attack and began withdrawing to a safe distance. All except one. The destroyer maintained its position, weapons continuing to pound at the station's weakening defenses. What are they doing? Lee wondered. If they don't withdraw before the phase shift completes? Her question was answered as a new type of beam emerged from the destroyer, not targeting the station's defenses, but rather a specific point near its center. The beam appeared to be attempting to disrupt the phase shift process itself. They're trying to stop the station from escaping, Jun realized. If they can interrupt the phase variance field before it fully forms. Mara understood the implications immediately. They could potentially destroy the station in the process. Vuong, bring us around. Target that destroyer with everything we've got. Captain Vuong questioned, surprised by the order. Our weapons are no match for a destroyer-class vessel. We don't need to defeat it, Mara explained. We just need to disrupt its attack for 30 more seconds. Understanding Vuong executed a tight turn, bringing Salvager's Pride on an attack vector toward the massive Geltec vessel. Their ship designed for salvage operations rather than combat, nevertheless carried defensive armaments, primarily designed to clear debris, but capable of causing at least minor damage to a warship. "Fire all available weapons," Mara ordered. "Concentrate on their disruption beam emitter." Salvager's Pride unleashed its modest arsenal energy beams and projectiles, striking the destroyer at the source of its disruption attack. As expected, the damage was minimal, but it achieved the desired effect, momentarily interrupting the beam as automatic defensive systems adjusted to this unexpected threat. That moment was all Forward Echo Prime needed. The phase variance field suddenly accelerated, enveloping the entire station in a shimmering aura. The Geltec destroyer, realizing its danger, attempted to withdraw, but it was too late for the portion of the vessel still caught in the disruption beam's path. As Forward Echo Prime phased completely out of normal space-time, that section of the destroyer phased with it approximately 1/4 of the massive vessel simply vanished, leaving the remainder, a crippled, dying hulk that began to drift atmosphere and contents, venting into space. "Phase shift complete," Jun reported quietly. "Forward Echo Prime is gone." On the main viewer, the space where the magnificent station had stood now appeared empty once more, indistinguishable from the surrounding void. Only the damaged destroyer and confused enforcer vessels provided evidence that anything unusual had occurred. "We should leave," Lee suggested, as alarms indicated the remaining Geltec vessels were regrouping. Mara nodded. "Set course for the inner system, maximum speed." As Salvager's Pride accelerated away from the battle zone, Mara gazed one last time at the apparently empty region of space that had momentarily revealed humanity's true legacy. Forward. Echo Prime was gone, but its message remained, now spreading unstoppably through independent communication channels across the sector. In the 3 months that followed, the impact of that message transformed galactic society's understanding of human technological contributions. Independent verification confirmed the authenticity of the historical records, forcing many species, particularly the Gel, to acknowledge that innovations they had claimed as their own were actually human in origin. Geltec Corporation attempted to suppress the information initially, but the distributed nature of the transmission made this impossible. As more independent entities confirmed the accuracy of the data, public opinion shifted dramatically. Protests erupted on worlds where Geltec held monopolies based on supposedly proprietary technology, while trade alliances began reviewing centuries of patent agreements. Mara and her crew, initially branded as criminals, found themselves increasingly hailed as heroes by those who had long suspected the marginalization of human achievements. Though they remained cautious, avoiding Geltec-controlled territories, they were welcomed in many independent ports and stations. 3 months after the discovery of Forward Echo Prime, Mara stood on the observation deck of Helios Station, an independent trading hub in the Proxima system. Around her, representatives from dozens of species had gathered for what was being called the Echo Conference, the first formal interspecies gathering specifically focused on acknowledging and preserving human technological heritage. "Captain Tang," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Lee approaching, dressed in formal attire, rather than her usual shipboard uniform. "The delegates are ready for your opening address." Mara nodded, taking a moment to straighten her own ceremonial jacket, an outfit she would have found ridiculous just months ago, but now wore with quiet pride. "Is Jun ready with the demonstration?" she asked. Lee smiled. "Yes. He's been working with the engineering team all night. The prototype is functional, the first new application of phase variance technology in over 700 years. And Vuong, coordinating security with the station personnel. He's taking no chances, even though Geltec representatives were specifically excluded from the conference." Mara took a deep breath, steeling herself for the public appearance. She had never sought fame or recognition. Her quest had been driven by a historian's desire for truth and a human's pride in her ancestry. The resulting celebrity had been an uncomfortable side effect. The conference chamber was filled beyond capacity, with delegates from independent worlds, and even some former Geltec client species, eager to establish new relationships with humanity. At the center of the chamber, a holographic projection showed the technical specifications of Forward Echo Prime, recreated from the data they had managed to save. As Mara approached the podium, the assembled delegates fell silent. Many wore translation devices, ensuring her words would be understood by all present, regardless of their native communication methods. Distinguished delegates, she began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. We gather today not to celebrate a victory or to assign blame, but to acknowledge a truth that has been hidden for too long. Humanity's contribution to galactic technology and culture did not end with the retreat. 7 centuries ago, it merely became obscured, its legacy, appropriated by those who sought power through deception. She gestured to the holographic display. Forward Echo Prime was designed not as a weapon or a means of dominance, but as a repository of knowledge, a time capsule meant to ensure that humanity's achievements would not be forgotten. Its creators hoped for a future where all species might share knowledge freely, building upon each other's innovations, rather than hiding or stealing them. The audience listened intently as she continued. That future begins today. The Echo Initiative, which many of you have already pledged to support, will establish open archives of technological development across all participating worlds. No longer will innovation be hidden behind corporate secrecy or species chauvinism. Instead, we will pursue advancement together, acknowledging our shared heritage while respecting the unique contributions of each civilization. As Mara concluded her address, Jun activated the demonstration he had prepared. In the center of the chamber, a small spherical device began to glow with the same distinctive energy signature they had first encountered in the preservation module from the UES Harbinger. Before the astonished audience, a scale model of Forward Echo Prime appeared not as a hologram, but as a solid object phasing partially into normal space-time, visible but untouchable. This is only the beginning, Mara told the awed delegates. The full technical specifications contained in the Echo archives will allow for new applications of this and many other technologies developed collaboratively rather than competitively. The conference continued for 7 days, with technical sessions, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic negotiations, establishing the framework for a new era of interspecies cooperation. Throughout it all, Mara found herself reflecting on the unexpected journey that had led her from salvage operations to the center of a galactic paradigm shift. On the final evening, as delegates celebrated the signing of the Echo Accords, Mara stood once again on the observation deck, gazing out at the starfield. Junli and Vuong joined her, each carrying a glass of celebration wine from their respective cultural traditions. So, Vuong asked, breaking the comfortable silence, "What's next for the famous Captain Maratang politics? A prestigious academic position? Your own fleet of research vessels?" Mara smiled, shaking her head. "None of the above. Salvager's Pride is still my home, and there are countless more forgotten corners of space to explore." She turned to her companions. "The question is whether you 3 will still be part of that exploration, or if you've developed a taste for fame and comfort." Jun chuckled. "The engineers here offered me a research position with my own laboratory. I turned them down. Their equipment is too new and reliable. Where's the challenge in that?" Li nodded agreement. "There are references in the Echo archives to at least 3 other repository stations. Someone needs to find them before Geltec regroups and tries to destroy the evidence. Besides," Vuong added, raising his glass, "someone has to keep you all out of trouble." They clinked their glasses together in a toast as the stars shone through the viewport, seeming somehow brighter than before, illuminating not just the future of humanity, but a new era for all species willing to embrace truth and shared knowledge over deception and division. In the vastness of space, somewhere beyond normal perception, Forward Echo Prime continued its eternal vigil, a testament to human ingenuity and foresight, waiting patiently for the day when it might once again reveal its secrets to worthy descendants of its creators. Until then, its message lived on in the hearts and minds of those who had glimpsed humanity's true legacy, a legacy no longer lost, but finally reclaimed.